No UFC this week, and apparently I think PFL had a card that nobody heard about, nobody cared about, because, PFL is UFC's number one competition. Makes perfect sense. But if we want to talk about something about the UFC, how about UFC 312 being absolutely ass-looking? Like, it's only a couple weeks away, and it's completely shit. The card before it, this one that's coming up next week, is amazing. I can see where all the fights are being put. It's being put on the fucking UFC Abu Dhabi, the Amava versus Adesanya card. And UFC 312, obviously, is taking place in Australia, so, let's put some Australian talent on it. Well, you didn't put Jack Della Maddalena on it. Obviously, he's fighting in London. Well, so you can't put him on there. I don't know what the fuck Steve Urseg's doing. I think he's fighting Asu Hamabayev. No, yeah, they are, and they're fighting on the Apex card. That's, wasting fucking time. Put it on the fucking Australia card and make that card better, because I think I was looking at it. Other than the title fights, there's no ranked fighters on the card. And it's not even like, oh, well, we have, like, a lot of veterans. Like, we have a Jim Miller on it. We have Bobby Green on it. We have, it's like any of these guys, these veterans. Clay Guida, we don't have any of these guys. No, you just don't have anybody fucking on it. It's fucking awful. Like, we have Jack Jenkins, who, decent fighter, hasn't really fought the best competition, has lost to a lot of the fighters who are halfway decent. Brian Battle is the most recent one. I think he's coming off a loss. Wait, no. Was it? I think I might be confused. I think I'm confusing Jack Jenkins with somebody else. Yeah, no, scratch that. Jack Jenkins is decent, like, don't get me wrong, but he hasn't really fought the best competition. Jake Matthews, hello, what the fuck are we doing? Why is he on the main card? Like, I get he's Australian, but he shouldn't be on the fucking main card. This guy's, I think, he's winning one fight, then losing a fight, and then winning a fight. This dude, one of his most recent wins is literally against Darius Flowers. That's not a fucking good win. That's a fucking one of the most ass fighters that's ever been signed to the UFC. He's got a win over him. What's his name? Fucking Justin Tafa's on the main card. I think he's the feature fight. He's fighting, I forgot what his name is, something Teixeira, 7-0. I think has had one fight in the UFC. Justin Tafa is 7-4 in MMA. Not in the UFC, in MMA. I love Justin Tafa. He's a great fighter. Puts on fun performances most of the time, but not fucking main card. Those two fights should be on the prelims. And then there's some, decent fighters on here that I know of, like Borishev, which, I think he's a decent fighter. Fucking Ilya Toporia's brother is going to be making his debut on this card, which is cool. That's one of the only cool things on this fucking card. The co-main event is Zhang Weili versus Tatiana Suarez, which I know a lot of people are kind of meh on women's MMA, which there's a lot to not like, from performances, lack of finishes, name value. This is probably the most interesting women's fight you can make right now that isn't oh, this champion's going to go up a weight class, fight another champion, because apparently that just doesn't happen. Why are we doing this? Why is only Amanda Nunes allowed to move up weight classes? Because we can't have somebody beat Amanda Nunes? What's going on with that? Because Zhang Weili probably could move up a weight class and honestly probably beat Shevchenko, if I'm being honest. It just doesn't make sense. Tatiana Suarez, good fighter, undefeated. Has finished a lot of her fights, I think most of them, but keeps having these long layoffs. I don't know. It's an interesting fight, but other than those two, there's no real major name value. And I know people are going to talk about, oh, don't forget about, UFC 306, which was one of, the best cards of that year in terms of performances. Yeah, I get that. This card is definitely, it's smelling like one that's going to have a lot of good performances, hopefully. If it doesn't have good performances, then that is fucking tragic. But the thing is, who the fuck's going to buy the pay-per-view? You're not going to buy it in fucking hindsight. So saying, oh, the performances, and we're going to say in hindsight, no one's going to fucking buy this card. You have Sean Strickland versus fucking Dricus du Plessis 2. Good fight. I kind of would have hoped it would have been Khamzat Chimaev, because Sean Strickland wasn't on a crazy win streak, hadn't defended his title a number of times, beat Paulo Costa, who I think was coming off a loss to Robert Whittaker. I think that So he only got one win against him. It's a decent win, but it's not a crazy win. And Hamza Chimaev had a more relevant win with Robert Whittaker than Sean Strickland did. Sean Strickland had been sitting out since the first pay-per-view of last year. Holy fuck. Wait, no, because he fought Paulo Costa. I don't remember how many pay-per-views later, and then he just sat on his ass for the rest of it. It's crazy, but not a lot of crazy fights on this card. Honestly, really disappointing. And it's really annoying because we know next week's card is going to be really good, and they won't put fucking good fights on a pay-per-view. And they're like, well, we don't have enough Australian fighters. Then don't fucking go to Australia. Or here's a better idea. Here's a crazy idea. You don't need to only use Australian fighters. You listen? And I get it. It's fucking far away. Well, you rate yourself into a fucking corner, then don't fucking have the card there. But if you can get fighters, pay them some extra to fucking go to Australia and just have them fucking fight on there. You couldn't get anyone. You couldn't get, genuinely, how were you guys trying to get people to go on this card and everyone was fucking, rejecting it? It's fucking crazy.